Hello everyone. I'm also today just to show you another topic, a really interesting topic. I actually have to say that I have been working with this with with this kind of smart contract and this topic since 2 years, the last 2 years. So I'm actually did not prepare something because we're gonna be really interactive today, and I'm gonna show you everything in a few words. What is RWA and what are the use cases? What kind of tools you should use with real world assets, and all of that. So today we're gonna be so interactive. So if Calvin and Robert want to say something, you're allowed.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting today.
Yeah.
Thank you for the permission.
Of course. So okay, let's define what is RWA. So RWA means literally real world assets. So what are real world assets? Literally, you can attach, you can describe as real world assets like a bunch of things, like probably a house, a department, a car, uh, some stocks, right? Laptop, whatever. So whatever in the real world are literally real world assets. But the thing here is that with blockchain, um, literally with blockchain, you can tokenize. That's the really word, the correct word to describe a real world asset, right? That is a tokenized asset. So if you look for, I'm sure that you uh, probably saw in Twitter or X or in Reddit or the Web3 communities a lot of this word. Um, because the people has been starting since some years to tokenize their stocks, their assets, their whatever. But the thing here is that was not a standard to tokenize those assets. So the people has been tokenized with some standard that all of you know, or probably you know that are the ERC20, that is for the token. The ERC721, that is for NFTs or non-fungible token, and probably also the ERC1155, that is like a hybrid between like a token and NFT, and also some standards that not a lot of people know, but this is the main standards that people has been using just to tokenize some assets. So let's start with opening Open Zeppelin wizard, because if you saw like the last live stream, we show you how to create a real world asset using Open Zeppelin wizard, right? So actually, Open Zeppelin is like doing it, or is making the smart contract with only ERC20 standard. The thing here is that not probably a lot of companies that are already using the or tokenizing or making real world assets is not accepting this standard. Why? Because if we look for if you do your research about real world asset and tokenized assets, you will find out about the T-Rex standard. All right. So what is the T-Rex standard? The T-Rex standard is an official ERC 3643 standard specifically for real world assets. But the thing here is that is a company behind it, obviously, that is called the Stockney. But obviously, you can take like the standard as a public and you can make it and you can deploy it by yourself. Uh, so yeah. Go ahead.
Can I know? So I only know about ERC20 at the moment. I know NFTs as the NFTs, but I didn't know it was within ERC 721. Who is creating these ERCs?
Oh, good question. So basically, it's the community of Ethereum, or actually for any EVM blockchain, because they are using that compiler. So where you can find these? Uh, so you can find that site right here as Ethereum improvement proposals. So before you make a ERC, that is an Ethereum request. Um, I forget about that. But before the Ethereum community approves um, your standard to be an ERC, you should create an EIP, that is an Ethereum improvement proposals. So you publish here, you publish your smart contract in the GitHub of Ethereum, and they should discuss with you that standard before to be approval. So
Okay, so and it's Ethereum request for comment, ERC.
mhm,
And it's
absolutely.
more of a community acceptance and like adoption, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So here you drop your area, and that you publish a few of the documentation about your standard, and once has been approval you can start to use it officially, because if it's an EIP, it's not like an official standard that you can use it for your community or for your project, because it's not allowed.
It's still a
um,
proposal. It's still
it's
an
still a
idea that you
proposal.
put it there, and the the community needs to look at it. It's like, okay, this works. We need it.
Indeed.
It needs to be accepted by the network to make sure that compatibility remains
Mhm.
across the.
Cool.
Mhm. Yeah, so everyone can make an ERC. So um, as you can see, there's a lot of members. You can discuss on Discord and all of that. So that thing happened with all the ERC, obviously, but also with the ERC 3643. Um, but the important thing with this standard is that it's a company behind it, and the company has developed a UI or a protocol. That protocol is called as T-Rex, and that protocol is actually an interactive UI that is calling this standard. But why is this important? Because has a structure to management and to um, yeah, for the management of the token, like the KYC. I will explain what is a KYC. That is an AML. Also about some permissionless roles. Also, you can add an agent. I will explain what is a agent. So all of that features that should have this standard for real world asset, this have it, and this has written the way to create a real world asset. But let's start with more simple things that is from OpenSimple in ERC20 that, okay, can be tokenized, and you can tokenize with this standard, but as I said, is not very well accepted in the community because of the all the real and because of the law or the regulation depend of the country you are doing your project and all of that. As I know, for example, in El Salvador is already accepting some real world assets and is regulated there, and is still working and is still in research in United States, as in Brazil or Saudi Arabia. I mean, is still in research, but all the people has been starting to create their own protocol and their own company about this. So, okay, let's define what features should have a real world asset, or as the standard indicates. So let's. I gonna research about ERC 3643 Ethereum from Ethereum, and I want to. Okay, I will open the the side of this standard. And you can start to building this one. But I mean, as I said, you can just try to take that standard directly from Ethereum and start to working. But it's literally a complex bunch of smart contracts, because has like probably a 50 smart contract that is connecting between themselves, and you need to understand all the logic of those smart contracts. So that's why Chirex is offering like the UI to sell you, but we don't want to. So we just want to study about the ERC structure. Okay, let me look for this one, Ethereum standard.
Clarify the majority of these changes in the contracts, while there are several additions, and also specifically for, in this case, RWAs, is not technical, but mainly compliance overall, to make sure there's compatibility with existing laws, to make sure you have all the details required when you're transferring an asset, etc. Because a lot of, let's say, legislation hasn't been updated or isn't ready yet for decentralized networks and transfer of assets there in a lot of jurisdictions. So you have to make sure that if you build new systems, somehow you can make sure that the registration of these assets is still possible within the given framework of the current laws.
Sorry,
which sometimes actually means you have to file double, which sometimes means you have to file within existing systems still to be able to make a sale or a transfer. But that is slowly changing as governments are optimizing laws for this as well.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of compliance stuff that you should work, and that is actually also working on chain with the smart contract. So, for example, like an address. Okay, let's start with the structure. Just to start talk about the compliance as Robert mentioned. So basically, a real world asset will obviously start with what kind of token should have. So you can choose to inherit any of those standards that can be a ERC20 or ERC721, but we want to make with ERC20. So the real world asset just should inherit this standard of token and add a logic behind this standard. Okay, so what kind of logic can be? So if you want to mint a token, all right, let's say that you can mint an amount. So this mint amount, as the last session I showed you, you can add some filters and some requirements into the logic of this function. So probably this mint function should have like, hey, requires user should have a KYC approved. So let's start with KYC worth. So KYC is if you look for KYC AML, you will find out about this kind of approval process, and like a filter that you should do once you want to start, like with a fintech. When you open an account with an exchange like Binance or like OKX or Kraken or whatever, those exchanges in crypto, and also it's working for finances websites that are into crypto or not. All right, so you can find out about KYC. Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, so of course, fintech, in this case, blockchain and crypto, came after existing finance. And the finance institution is part of financial regulation, has to abide by it. And which means in the majority, if you're transferring anything of value as an institute or as a service provider, you need to provide client due diligence. Means you need to know your customer, KYC, or KYB, know your business. This is because invisible transfers of wealth, which could be potentially used for money laundering or terrorism financing. And the same applies to organizations that are building solutions for crypto, unless, of course, you're building something outside of the current scope. You cannot interact with on-ramps and off-ramps and service providers. And then,
Yeah, that's exactly what is the meaning of KYC and KYB. That you open a new topic about KYB, because KYB also can be. I mean, it's not for users because this is only for customers, but KYB only is know your business. As Robert said, it's only for business that want to make business to business a commerce, or like all that about finance between those business. So I will call it.
yeah, and for this process, there are actually providers. So if, for instance, if you don't want to worry about as a new business, or and let's say you don't want to watch of personal data of users,
Yeah.
you can work with an existing KYC provider who the people will go through the funnel there, they'll do the checks. You can even make it white label for your company.
Yeah.
And that they just provide a yes or a no to you if this person is verified or not, providing services to them. That's one of the options. We did that when building a pool at one point where people could donate.
Yeah, that's exactly how, like, if it's approved, I gonna draw this process, this flow. Let's say that the user has, or the customer has been approved. So if it's a yes, you can interact and you can use the platform, or I don't know, like the app. Let's say with 2.5. Yeah, sorry, Kit. You wanted to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Cool. So if the customer has not been approved, of course you have not access to the platform. And that's it. So in which part of the process of the onboarding of the user should appear, or it usually appear, the KYC process? So basically, let me move this one. Oops, I'm gonna delete it. Let's say that we have our platform of RWA. I'm gonna call it as Capybara RWA.
Just a quick question. I just a little bit curious on how do you what's the process for KYC or KYB?
Okay. Yeah. So the process for the KYC and KYB is I'm gonna draw this part, is asking about if you have an account. But okay, before I gonna explain KYC and KYB process, let me explain a little bit of the onboarding, because this is important to understand what kind of variables and what kind of information we should have already from the user before you make the KYC and KYB process. So that's the onboarding process. That is called it as onboarding. Okay, that is basically the sign up of the user. So as you know, the sign up is only if you're using an email, a password, a phone number, and probably general data, but this is more for KYC. Once you sign up, you go to KYC, and in KYC is asking about general data of the user. That is the full name, your address, also your phone number, also your email, and also your national ID. That all the countries has a different type of national ID. And after this, also the finance or the financial ID, that for example, I will look for a financial ID. I want to know what kind of ID is in USA. So
It may differ a bit. Services being offered, how deep it has to be.
yeah,
Uh,
Okay.
a common thing, for instance, for financial institutions is require you to fill out a PEP form, person, which means that, for instance, you have a certain public position, means you're so that they are aware if you are moving big loans, big instance, that it could be related to your position, and that's something that instance.
yeah,
Yeah.
and after you
See.
fill all of this data, will request a biometric identification or biometric validation, and also hand in hand or
Might differ per how big the level. Sorry, I just might differ per institute on how high the required level of
oh
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, yeah. Okay, yeah, with biometric validation, is actually basically the KYC asking for about a validation of your face, and that's kind of moves that you make with your camera on your iPhone or whatever, and also the ID validation that will search into the government databases that your biometric validation, that is actually your face, is the same in your ID.
So the say this of this is to basically prevent any kind of financial, like either other financial fraud, correct?
Yeah, and not only
Okay.
financial fraud, also, yeah, Robert, I know that you know. So if you,
Oh, I just wanted to say yes, and indeed, like if you do a biometric verification, if it's just the details, that means you could start on my details. If there's no further check of who you actually are in that process.
Social welfare
Theoretically.
meaning it.
Or service where you're not verified. Here's the details, the security number, etc. You can set things in motion if there was no further verification of you, let's say, beyond the screen.
Okay. Okay, so that means it can be. Are you saying it's kind of like identity theft, something like that?
Yeah, that's one of the
Okay.
things is. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And what about the MetaMask?
It's not MetaMask right here, but we're gonna go later. Yeah, this is
For sometimes
Okay.
you have to
So like towards the end.
sometimes you have to verify that as well. Like with exchanges, if you want to take anything out of a centralized exchange towards your own MetaMask, they for it to make sure you are the owner of the MetaMask, so that you're not transferring.
yeah, yeah, indeed. This is a KYC process that is actually so easy. It's like it's taking like 10 minutes to complete it. And to the validation depends, is up to the platform. Probably will be automatically approvement, or probably there is people behind reviewing or checking the process that is okay, and then gonna approve your profile. But with KYB is more complex. I don't want to be into so deep there with KYB, but KYB is asking a lot of documents, financial history, records, also reports in the government. That is, it's a lot of complex. It's more complex than KYC, and the KYB is all of that is manually. It's manually. There is not like a provider. Platform that can provide you like a KYB. Well, actually there is, but usually it's manually processed instead of KYC. So okay,
So just a little curiosity on the MetaMask. So in general, MetaMask, right? Unless you are assigned to something.
yeah,
So that means that once there's and they put their MetaMask in this, that means that that person is no longer anonymous.
Well, at least not to the service provider and to the financial authority that the service provider reports to. The financial oversight, the tax office,
Yeah.
etc., to report your earnings. Yeah.
I think
So that means that once, if let's say you have this MetaMask attached to the system with all your information in there, does that mean let's say you use MetaMask to register somewhere else without your ID? Can it be for at who is actually the owner of this account?
Yeah. Well, once you make your KYC and you attach that MetaMask address into the platform, you will always be tracked. And not all the platform is Web3 in that case that is tracking your MetaMask. Also, there are some platforms that I will tell later that there is um, they have their ownership of your address and they just provide your address as an ID. So you are not the real owner of that address. They are, but you can deposit and withdraw the funds of that address. But yeah, there are two types.
Okay, so it's true that only.
Yeah. So okay. So once the platform is completed with the KYC process, the user probably okay. There's let's say that there's a third phase that is like connect your wallet or they provide their wallet. So let's go with those kind of two types of address management. So I'm gonna split into that there are Web3 Web3 web apps and Web 2.5 web apps. So the Web3 web apps will allow you to allow you to connect your MetaMask. And this other one, they provide you, the platform provides you a wallet. So as I say, you're not the fully owner of this wallet. And this is really famous because they have the control of your wallet and they can freeze, they can burn, they can withdraw if they want any funds of your wallet. So these kind of providers are called as, I forget, but I can show you an example. Custodials, exactly. For example, the most famous custodial wallet is Fairblocks. So Fairblocks is basically that custodial wallet that you can create a wallet in the dashboard and you can provide like that address and a sign via API or manually, of course, writing a name of that address. And that address, for example, in Fairblocks is called as treasury. So a treasury can have a bunch of wallets of many other blockchains, non-EVM or EVM, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, Polkadot, COTI, whatever, and all the blockchains you can have in our treasury. So they provide you like those wallets and they have the fully control of that. So there is a few, this is just all the projects usually do this, but also there is a few projects that has the Web3 web apps that allows you to connect MetaMask. But what is the thing here, that you have not the control of this, and a user can make a malicious activity with the real world assets. So what is the thing here, that if for example, the KYC failed and the user and the platform is a Web3 web app. So a user make a malicious activity like transfer a real world asset to not verified account. And this account is like a MetaMask wallet. It's another MetaMask wallet. Let's say it's 0x123. And this wallet has a report of, let's say, a hack to I don't know, Uniswap smart contracts. And it's reported by Uniswap that this address is a malicious address and is from a hacker, has a hacker owner. And I already have the RWA, or your real world asset, in that wallet. So what is the thing? So that's why the platforms are using this process and has the control of your wallets, just to avoid these kind of things, and they can manually withdraw their RGW or freeze your address or freeze the token or pause the contract or whatever feature they implemented into the smart contract, and that's it. They can fix it so quickly. But this is harder if you want to accept that Web3 apps. So what's the fix? Yeah, so what's the fix into those smart contracts that I'm gonna say that that ERC 3643 has not. That's why they recommend this process. So there is another way, obviously, as always. Then you can make your smart contract. I'm gonna say my smart contract, RWA smart contract, as the same thing as T-Rex protocol, that you can inherit the ERC20 token, and you can add your own requirements and your custom RW. That, okay, I'm gonna accept obviously the KYC. I will open a list. Obviously KYC validation, of course, but I want that my token can be freezed by to an address or to a process or to a transaction. So I'm gonna add some features that are pause token, freeze token, emit, how do you say that? Emit an event to track all activity or all transactions. And also here we can add another tools for this process. So this is called as KYT. Okay, this part. So KYT is basically know your transaction.
Okay.
Yeah. And these kind of tools can track the transactions of a blockchain itself. So you can monitor the transactions into the Bitcoin chain or Ethereum or COTI. We can build a COTI manually, that tool. So actually tracks all the activity of that, of like an address, and if an address has interacted with a smart contract or with another malicious address from another user, that's how it works, the KYT. So I will explain a little bit this because it's really important to show you. So let's say I have my address, KYT ABC, and I want to track this address. So what the KYT does is will track since the beginning. Actually from the first transaction. And if also the interaction with smart contracts, and also if that address have received I don't know, an amount from malicious account. So once we detect this, for example, this event, we'll call to the smart contract. Okay, we'll event that report, and the smart contract can be emit another event, or you can catch this event into the platform and just report that account and ban this account and freeze that account and close up that account, whatever you can do.
Yeah, and for example, malicious accounts, there are blacklists of accounts which have been known to be used by hacking groups, and those will be automatically checked by certain services to make sure that you're not interacting with them before you have an account, or let's say if you have an account. Hi, Kelvin. We have another guest. Nice. But also in some cases, some services might even opt if you're interacting with an account that isn't verified. That might be too much. So they would require KYC from the other address as well, the counterparty.
Yeah, Robert, you explained very well. Also about the blacklist check is also a feature I forget about this one. But yeah, also review like a blacklist of an addresses that has been malicious accounts, or has been do bad activities into the blockchain, or has hacking on the smart contract or some protocol, and has been reported by the entity. Also with these features, you can do a lot, and you can freeze the token from a specific account. And with this feature, you has not these processes. You can see it's only with Web3 web apps, and it's really safe. It's so cool. And usually, all these features are being executed, or either are being managed by admin. Or so let's say about the access control, that this is a topic we talked about the last live stream. So the access control is a really important feature to have, because you can assign like an admin, you can assign a developer, you can assign a diligence entity. That this one can be like the person that review and that can report to the government, or to regulated entities, that account has an amount that has not. So that's actually, I'm gonna call it as dysregulated entity. Also, you can add validated user.
Yeah, I believe in some, for instance, this is a hot topic, of course, but in some mixers you have an option to give a specific insight for a regulator, so to do your tax filings, for instance, while still remaining, while your transactions are still not visible, let's say. But just for them, you would open it up.
Yeah, indeed. So basically, this is a basic smart contract that you can make for your own RWA, just inheriting this kind of smart contract, ERC20 token. But what happened when you want to provide a privacy to the user, but because you don't want to show you the balance of the how many RW assets you have in your account or for your users. So that's why we get inside in a private blockchain, of course, COTI blockchain, and with garbled circuits, with MCP core, with MPC core library, you can provide those private features. So I want to show I want to provide a private balance that, as you know, in COTI is a random number. And also, what else we can do a private, Robert, Calvin, Kit? What else do you want to make a private into these kind of smart contracts?
Onto my bank account, like maybe transactions itself, like who I'm sending to.
Okay, private. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
The metadata.
metadata. That's
That's
so
a harder
important.
one. Yeah, it's harder.
Yeah, that's
Metadata is in like where I'm sending it from, or
well,
Well,
both. As in, currently that's not supported as far as I know yet. But
no, but
or do you
like
know,
we kind of
Rafa?
what time
yeah.
I'm sending it from.
No, yeah, like with the metadata is a complex. Well, not a complex, but it's like a large topic because we can assign like an on-chain metadata or off-chain also. Which is more safe?
Yeah.
Obviously, the
Yeah.
on-chain,
If
but
it's an on-chain address which is not related to any other activity, then nobody's going to know anyway. And that's the idea. That's why you should
yeah,
always have a range of addresses you can use for different services.
yeah, exactly. So with the on-chain, for example, with the on-chain metadata, you can, as Robert said, your personal or your original data from the user. But what happens with the on-chain metadata in, for example, in private blockchain like COTI? So you encrypt, obviously you encrypt that data, and will retrieve you by 32 kind of data that will look like a huge number, right? Like a huge kind of data. So this data is actually encrypted, but if the user will open, let's say with their AES key, with this has been soon launched, that is like
So
MetaMask
the
Snap.
encrypt data here, that you just write like a long number that you just write. That could be anything, right? Doesn't have to be just MetaMask. Like it could be anything, is it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So actually, yeah, with your MetaMask, you will see, or everyone will see these random number. But if you decrypt that data with your COTI snap,
Yeah.
or yeah, with your AES key, that is the key, literally is the key to open that private data. You will open up a new data that you are probably your name, as Calvin said, your bank account, and any kind of data you want to say there. So that's it. But what happened with off-chain data is not safe. It's the first thing I have to say. It's not safe. Why? Because obviously, okay, let's say that it also has an encryption, but is saved in a database, in the Web2 database. I don't know, Mongo or Postgres.
And that's why there's like leaks, and that is all from the off-chain database, right?
Yeah, exactly. So every, like, I don't know, maybe probably a person can hack this database and can have access to the encryption data, and or probably has not been encrypted and is public literally, but public into local into the database, and can have access to the all data from the users. So that's why, but why we gonna put like metadata in on chain, in a blockchain, because blockchain cannot be hacked in terms of have access since the first transaction or since the first account, or can have access to your MetaMask account or whatever. So, okay, I think we have enough with the private thing, because Ikari is so powerful that is a little bit complex to create those features into the functions and to add into the smart contract, but that's okay. So that's it. We want to have a private. So let's try to make a real world asset with Kiro. I will open up my Kiro IDE as I publish into the description of this live stream. Below, you will find the link to this repo. You can clone this repo. It's in GitHub. It's actually in my GitHub. You will have actually the same setup that I showed you the last live stream. It's so basic. It's in Foundry. And if you are using Kiro cursor, you don't have to understand everything or every file, because you can ask for to the AI. So I will ask to Kiro, and I will create. I'm already connected to my NCP server that is Brave, and I will create an spec, and I will say no, sorry, I will steering my project. That steering means that document and study all this setup just to understand the context of all my code and to make a better output I want to receive. So okay, let's go. This setup is actually already using COTI contracts library. And what else? I think MCP also. Anyway, so okay. In the meantime, we're gonna create our spec, and actually our spec is create a real world asset with the following private features, private metadata, private balance, and actually just setting the private balance will be a private transaction because the explorer in COTI won't see the amount we are transferring to another account. So I think that's it. I will create my spec, and we already received our steering. That is, as I said, is a little bit of documentation to understanding all the setup project. And our spec will create 3 files. That the first one is requirements, the second one is design, and the third one or the last one is task list. So this is more by coding tool.
So you're generating the requirements now based on the documentation.
Sorry, say it again.
You're generating the requirements now based on the documentation.
Yeah, no, based on my steering. I'm sorry, about my spec. So if I say to my spec literally this, sorry, let me zoom my ID. So I say, hey, create another real world asset with the following features, and based on this information, we'll create our requirements. So actually, I already created my requirements. I will review if it's okay. So it says that this feature implements real-world asset token contract that leverages COTI network MPC, multi-party computation capabilities to provide private preserving functionality. Requirement 1, so scenario, I want to tokenize more real-world asset. System encrypt the balance. Okay, that's cool. Probably transaction amounts, that's cool. Okay, go ahead with design phase. So the design phase will literally define the structure of the contracts that should have like the functions, event, errors, whatever, architecture, pattern designs, based obviously in the requirements. So we're gonna wait. And as you can see, is actually investigating about or researching about MCP, sorry, about real world assets using our MCP server that is from Brave. We can see the links right here. As you can see, is searching the official site of the real world assets just to base the structure.
For a second, I thought it was just going through your browser history. Like, this is based because you just went there.
No, it's not. But it's a powerful tool, I want to say, Kira. But yeah, it's like the same thing that a developer can do, right? Like research links and check information, a bunch of information, and based off the information, make your contract. So, okay, this is the core components. We have the token core. Okay, is defined as ERC 721. I have no problem with this. Has the minting function, the transfer function, and has a privacy layer that obviously is the encryption with COTI, metadata also, and the balance. Has the access control, as I explained in Excalibur with the diagram, that is role-based, has a permissions, has compliance, and also has the MPC structure that is the private types and private structure that that MPC library has. So, okay, I will move to implementation that will create the task just to go step by step to create our contract. Okay, so if we go to design also, we will find that it's actually creating an interface that is like a definition of your core contract, and also has some mapping just to save the token data by an ID. Also has an authorized emitters. That is important because obviously we want to authorize an address if they complete the KYC process. Okay, let's review. Has 12 tasks. Let's start. Okay, cool. Nice. Let's start with the first task. And that's it. I'm by coding.
Do you have it in a certain mode that it asks for these tasks first and it gives you this overview?
Yeah, we can make an overview, but I will trust in the requirements and design file because it's based in this one. And also, obviously, you can choose what kind of task you want to execute.
No, I meant like, did you set up Kiro way so that it would generate these tasks for you?
No. It's always is only with the specs. I mean, the only thing you need to do as a setup is only the requirements and design for your task list. But no, it's actually that thing. Okay. As you can see, created an interface that will define the events and the functions. Okay, let's review this. It's important. If we check the first event, it's emitted when a new RWA token is minted. It's cool. With encrypted metadata, so it's actually cool. Event with a private transfer when a metadata has been updated, when an access role has been granted, when an access role has been revoked, and also when I made a private balance is set for a token. Well, I want to figure out more about this, but we have the mint RWA token, also set private balance, get a private balance. All right, we have a good definition of this one. So we have the first contract that is a library for only for errors. So this one is well documented. And also the standard that is making actually a library. This for storage. Let's see, I will explain about this contract. So in terms of pattern designs in Solidity, you usually create a storage contract just to literally store, to storage some variables, some structs, some mappings that you don't want to show in the main contract. As the same thing with errors, as the same thing with events. So it's important to have, for example, as you can see, it's only structs. Struct is like has more variables here, so that's basically an struct, and also has struct only that, and variables and events, no functions. Okay, I think I completed my first task. I will go further with my second task. That is actually implement basic contract structure and inheritance with ERC 721 using these private types, and set up a constructor and privacy compatibility. So this is the main task, the main contract, sorry. In the meantime, I will start to create a script to deploy our smart contract step by step. So I will call a new file called as deploy RWA. So, and I will just try to copy this contract that is the contract has been shown, that is deploy. And I will call this contract as deploy RWA. As you can see, I am importing this contract that I want to deploy. So that contract I want to deploy is token, is this one, private RWA token. From contracts, private RWA token. And then I will create right here in the line 10, new private RWA token, and as a parameter only accepts like the parameters that accept into the constructor, that are this one, the name, the symbol, and the admin address of the contract. And I will go to right here, and I will set that like with the parameters that I want to my name as capybara RWA. The symbol is C RWA, and the admin address is my address of MetaMask, of course. I will copy this and I will write right here. Okay, we'll set up. That's it. That's how you can write your deployment script for the deployment of the smart contract you want to deploy. And as we can see, it's a bunch of, or actually it's a huge smart contract, but because of the comments, it's not because of the code itself. But we made this contract with Hero actually. So I will try to deploy it to show you in COTI testnet scan. So let's explore a little bit. So we have the minter role. Oh, this is important. I forget. So the minter role is a big topic. Yeah, an important topic. So the minter role, meaning literally like what role or what address will mint those tokens, because it's not the user wallet, is not the admin wallet. So what you think, guys? That is probably this minter role address. So actually, usually and often is like a relayer address. Okay, so what is the relayer address? If we go to OpenZeppelin relayer, we can find out that the relayer is like literally another account that will be that has a role for a smart contract. So if we go to a site for these relayers into OpenZeppelin, I recommend OpenZeppelin, but there's more tools to do this, or actually manually if you want, of course. Let's read a little bit of what is our relayer. So our relayer is literally an Ethereum based externally owner account. So it's an EOA assigned exclusively to your team. Okay, so your team is like because of the platform of the OpenZeppelin, but is assigned to, for example, a contract. I will make a draw and I will make an example, of course. And as we can see in this image, we have six relayers in 6 different blockchains. And of course, you can manage the relayer with a balance. Why with a balance? Okay, I will explain more. So this relayer address, I will say relayer account better. So this relayer account has a balance. Okay, let's say that has a balance of 100 for COTI. Okay, so once a user, I will draw a smart contract right here, RW smart contract. So when a user, I will draw user calls to the platform that he are purchasing or budget RWA. Purchasing RWA. Probably the platform will ask a cost for that RWA that, let's say, I don't know, $500, $5,000. Okay. In COTI, so he will pay in COTI $5,000 to the smart contract. The smart contract receives the amount, and then the smart contract will mint those tokens or that RWA. That probably is only one. Okay. Oh no, right here. Mint one RWA. So, but this contract will mint, but who executes this mint? So the relayer account will execute that mint function once the user has deposited this amount, and the relayer account executes this function, and that will be sent to the user. So that's how the relayer account is working. So let's say it's a third entity into this process, into this flow. And why is important to have? Because you cannot assign, this is a rule, you cannot assign to the admin account or to the user. Oh, okay, well, probably to the user, right? But it's not recommended to add that filter into that function. Probably because...
Can I ask? So it's a relayer account is basically storage for a different currency. Is that right?
What do you mean with a different currency?
So if the user pays with COTI to get to mint one RWA, and the COTI the COTI gets sent to the relayer account, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where it stays. So right now the balance should be 100 COTI, which I assume would be $5,500.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. So, yeah, probably because
we actually talked about this in the security broadcast that Rafa did. That if you define certain functions in a smart contract, you remove the human error or human malice. So as the minting takes place there, then there's less chance of mistakes, let's say, but also less chance of people trying to game the system.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Rafa? That's right. So yeah, that's how a relayer account works. I highly recommend that just to specific functions like mint, and probably the relayer account also has access and to burn RWA. No. This is more for admin access role. So that's how a relayer account works. So I'm going to define right here the different roles we have. So we have the admin role. The admin role I recommend for the main functions that the admin or the owner of the contract can do is freeze, burn, probably mint, but I don't know. It depends of the business logic you want to or you have. And also we have the minter role. That is the relayer account. Also we have the compliance role. That probably the compliance role can decrypt with obviously just trying to figure out how you can do the decrypt to the metadata of the user. That probably you can set that only two entities can decrypt that, the user and the compliance role that will decrypt metadata and balance. Or even you cannot do that because you can trust in Garbled Circuit's logic that says that that has specifically in the library, so you can trust that, or you can do this feature as you want. Admin role, minter role, compliance role, and also we have probably a developer role, but it doesn't matter. So we have these roles that we want to that probably you want to add into your to use your smart contract. And that's it. Let's see how is it going our contract. So I will cancel this process. And there we go. I will upload and I will push these changes just to show you and to publish and to add and attach into my repository this smart contract. So 1 second, let me save the process and save the RWA token, and I will push to my main. Okay, there we go. It's in internet now. That's it. Let's go with the other task. Actually, I accepted. Success. So as you can see, you can also take my example and take this repository and just start to work step by step or task by task with your Kiro. Or if you don't have Kiro and you have Cursor and you have an AI agent, you can do also with Cursor, just say in a prompt like, hey, take Kiro directory from specs directory and continue with the task is implemented there, and that's how you can do that with different AI. So I highly recommend just to base your contract in the structure of this standard. That is the most famous standard for RWA. And that's it. I don't know if you have any questions, guys, or do you want to add something?
That's very interesting. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I would say that if you look at the blockchain network, is similar to the existing hardware internet. Let's say the cables. The cables are dumb. They just send bits and bytes over,
Indeed.
you know. They don't make any difference. They don't see it. And blockchain networks, although they have predefined rules about how to connect with between the nodes, etc., in terms of transactions, are also pretty dumb. Which is why we need to define it, the token in itself, which is a very it's a gift. It's inside the actual asset that you're transferring. Let's say the rules of that.
Yeah.
But we do need to because it functions all within a framework of legality. So there's that, and which is why some, let's say, common or in dApps, for instance, to make things finite makes sense. As in, if rules change for whatever reason in your jurisdiction, maybe you want to invalidate the tokens that you made to reissue new ones because it's required. Or maybe you, because of a transfer, maybe you need to issue more. Makes sense to start roll because your shares in are diluting because you have more owners now. That's why there are multiple rules, and that's why the diagram is bigger as well. And it's and for this, and the last thing I want to say is that for this, it may require you, if you're going to build an RWA service, it may require you to have surrounding service providers. I mentioned KYC as an example, to connect with other parties to be able for them to connect with your token and your project.
Yeah, that's a good
the
point.
easiest solution, right? Third party just checking it for you at the moment.
Yeah, the third party in the case of not related to the dilution. It's more if there's a revalue of an asset and there's new owners. And I can imagine that there's a necessity to do that. Which of course, NFT collections, you want to have a hard stop because they need to be, as example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fair point that Robert is talking about the KYC, because if only regulated entities and registered entities can do KYC. It's important to say that if you are not registered in the country or in the continent or whatever, or any other country you are given the service, you can do the service if you are not. So also, why is that happening? So, for example, I don't know, a KYC provider is approving like the accounts from your platform, and as Robert said, that validated accounts can work with the other with other platforms. I will call it third platforms. Sorry, that is using this KYC provider. So probably between the two platforms, platform one and platform two, want to have the access to their to the, I don't know, let's say to the RWA tokens from the platform 3, and the platform 3 is also using this KYC provider, and you can exchange and you can transfer the tokens between those platforms because it's using actually the same service and the same entity. And not only the entity, also it's not only for the KYC provider, it's only for the KYC register in the country. Okay, all validated.
It might also be other third-party services. I'll partially dox myself, but I recently sold a house in the Netherlands. And a house is real estate is a special type of, depending on where you are, but usually it is for the regulator. So in this case, we need party escrow provided by the notary. So that was, it's not always required, of course, depending on where you are, but that was part of the process that took place after all the signatures are done. So that might, if you're going to touch the real estate business, which you also need to, maybe you have got other type of assets, but
So does this
as an example of something.
mean this open? Oh, sorry, Robert. A question that, so does this mean this open up an opportunity that you can partner in order to do real estate business using?
Yes, but in the case of real estate agents, they would be, let's say, there would be in another aspect of the pipeline, because as soon as the actual transaction is going to take place, they would have to go through your platform compliance, and then they can actually receive the tokens in some, because that process, I'm assuming, is not going to be handled by the agents if their expertise is the sales part and the actual asset.
I mean, this,
of course.
yeah, I mean, this is actually opens up a lot of opportunity in terms of real estate market in Thailand as well, because in Thailand, the real estate, especially in the city, is just the value just skyrocketed. From the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years, like the value is just, is the growth is exponential, and individual can't really afford real estate within the city, but like with RWA, I think they might be able to, at least a fraction of them.
Yeah, the whole idea of this simplification of ownership means that it's easier to sell, to transfer, to sell them, to buy them. So there's more transaction margins to be made, more fees, those who provide it as a platform. And indeed, you can be a benefit from changes in the housing market.
You can also get rent as well.
Yeah, like you partially own a property and then you get dividends from that rent.
Yeah, and of course, RWA it doesn't necessarily need property. I mean, it could be land. It could, I think, art is also
Uh,
a physical asset which could be tokenized.
yeah, like even I think even businesses, right? Like let's say if someone's own a restaurant and they put it up, for F, you can use it as an RWA, and then you get the revenue from the fraction of what you own. It's like your like shares of that restaurant, for example.
Indeed.
Yeah, in that case, you'd have to check in your jurisdiction if tokenized shares. So you have the legal what is it? Effectiveness as well, the legal act on it, because that might differ per jurisdiction beyond the regulations, because it's another type of asset share.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robert, do you have experience like with RWA in Netherlands? How is the Netherlands?
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I've mainly seen historic efforts, as in the past 12 years, I've seen about 5
Mm-hmm.
projects who were their main focus for most to look into social, they call it co-ownership, so partial ownership, to one way market, but also co-living, for instance, because in that country the housing market it's out of reach for originally out of reach for single people, and it gets harder
Oh.
now to actually afford a house. For instance, in
Oh, wow.
if you don't have a medium
Mm.
income job. But the problem there was and is historically not that they weren't allowed to operate, but the problem for compliance you would still need the transactions and requirements financially and information wise, so to the registration as well, into legacy.
Mm.
So basically you're maintaining 2 supply chains of information, 2 databases, your own blockchain enabled one out there, which you have to comply with to make sure that the National Registry for Properties is happy. The banks are happy to work with you. You need perhaps that all the parties which are involved in that
Mm.
process. Because of that, didn't make it. I think all of them actually, those that I met in terms of founders and projects, that it's impossible because, like I said, legislation is
Yeah.
updated continuously everywhere. Um, there's always let's say a delay. Technology is developed, and then within a few years, universities and schools pick it up as curriculum.
Hmm.
So, thing for the niche developers anymore. And then let's say another few years, and it lawmaker portfolio to start building policies for it.
Hmm. Got it. No.
Which you see now, for instance, with stable coins, they can start building compliance. A compliant ecosystem for them to operate.
Yeah. No. It's like a interesting thing that how all the countries has a different point of view, like about how they are seeing the RWA and how is the regulations going. As everyone knows, like the regulations is taking a long time to be set or to be approved or to be published or whatever they do with regulated things. So yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like a block that all the builders probably have in terms of compliance because everyone says like, okay, the hardest thing to do in these kind of projects is the technology. No, bro, it's the compliance thing on the compliance part, the compliance side.
It's dealing with
So yeah,
the government regulations.
Yeah, indeed.
because technology is it's an exact science mostly. you're building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, it's all based on math. But in terms of might be interpreted, that's one. That's why I think lawyers will be the last to go in terms of automation. But
it changes from region to region, say countries to countries.
Exactly. A music copyright startup. And to serve clients also internationally, you got different copyright laws per country, per jurisdiction, and within that, their rules are different per type of copyright as well, for broadcasting on the web, TV. Unique aspects for every location you have
Of
to
course.
be aware of before you can start making something smooth between.
This as well, maybe movies, right? Say if it's on Netflix and you get a fraction of what you
Of course.
own.
Yes, it's a different right, different oversight authorities, but yeah, the idea is in different countries and different distribution, which is why Netflix, for instance, in some countries, movies or series are not available. In others, they are, just because of the complexities per country.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Also, I will share this diagram to you guys, and I will attach it to the repository. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. This was a really interesting topic because it's an interesting topic in Web3 ecosystem. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, and
Thank you.
Stay updated for the next live streams. All right, thank you. Stay
Sure.
COTI.
Stay COTI.